That wild day, I had woken before it was even dawn. I was 5 years old. I was feverish with excitement. I seemed to understand that I had a terrible happiness in store. When Daddy came to pick me up for our Saturday adventure, as he called it, me and Mama were standing at the tall windows of our 18th floor apartment, looking out across Central Park. It had just begun to snow. A blind spot is a defense mechanism. According to the Psychology Dictionary, a blind spot is a defense mechanism put up against recognizing impulses or recalling repressed memories which threaten the person. How many of us have ignored red flags, looked the other way so we didn't see anything, put ourselves in danger for someone we love? Follow along on a daddy-daughter Saturday adventure, an adventure where a little girl learns big kid lessons, mainly that it is possible to fear someone just as much as you love them. A Manhattan Romance by Joyce Carol Oates. The doorbell rang, and Mama whispered, "If you said you were sick, you wouldn't have to go with him." For she could not utter the words daddy, and even the words your father made her mouth twist. I said, "Mama, I'm not sick. I'm not." And so we stood, watching the snowflakes. 1,000 million snowflakes drifting downwards out of the sky, glinting in the sunshine of early December. Mama was saying now in her sad and angry voice, "I wish you didn't have to leave me, darling, but it's the terms of the agreement. It's the law." And these bitter words, "it's the law," filled Mama's lips each Saturday morning. I wanted to say to her, "I love Daddy better than I love you. Let me go." Because Mama was me, but Daddy was someone so different. Well, the doorbell rang, and I ran to answer it. Mama remained. Daddy hoisted me up in his arms, calling me his baby girl, his princess. Daddy called out politely to Mama, saying that we'll be going to the Bronx Zoo and we'll be back promptly at 5:30 p.m. Mama made no reply. Daddy cried out, "Goodbye, remember us," which was like Daddy to say mysterious things to make you smile and make you wonder. In the elevator ride going down, Daddy hugged me, saying how happy we were, just the two of us. He was the king, I was the little princess, and Mama was the ice queen who never laughed. Our limousine was shiny black and larger than last week's. Its windows were dark tinted, so no one could see in. Daddy no longer drove his own car. His enemies had taken his driver's license from him to humiliate him. Our Saturday adventures always left me dazed, giddy. One day I would learn this was what intoxicated high drunk meant. I'd been drunk with happiness with Daddy, but no other drunk ever afterwards would come near today. And my daddy, smooth-shaved, was wearing a dark pinstriped double-breasted Armani suit and shiny black Italian shoes. For me, Daddy bought a beautiful silk scarf to wrap around my neck and a beautiful white gold wristwatch studded with tiny emeralds that he made much smaller to fit my wrist. For himself, Daddy bought a half a dozen beautiful silk neckties imported from Italy, a cashmere vest sweater imported from Scotland, and a handsome suitcase imported from England, all of which he ordered to be delivered to an address in New Jersey. For all these wonderful presents, Daddy paid for it in bills of cash and large denominations. Daddy no longer used credit cards. He said, I refuse to be a cog in the network of government surveillance. And they will not catch him, and he won't play their ridiculous games. It was now time to leave. Daddy had learned the bad news, the news he had been expecting, but shielding me from it. That afternoon, warrant for Daddy's arrest had been issued by Manhattan's district attorney's office, by some of the very people for whom until months ago, Daddy had worked with. He was to be charged that as a prosecuting attorney, he had misused the powers of his office, solicited and accepted bribes, committed perjury, blackmailed, and embezzled. And such charges were made, such lies were concocted about his enemies, who had been so jealous of him for so many years, and wanted him defeated, destroyed. So, exhausted, Daddy booked us a suite on the 16th floor in Central Park. Once we were inside, he bolted the door and slid the chain lock in place. Then, he opened the mini fridge, broke open a little bottle of whiskey, poured it into a glass, and quickly drank. Then, he was on the edge of the big bed, his face lowered almost to his knees. He was muttering to himself. The police are at the door. They want to come in. Daddy had a gun, and he fired into the air and pulled me into the other room. The police broke down the door and came in. They said, "Mister, surrender weapon. Will you toss it where we can see it?" Daddy said, "I won't. I can't. I've got my little girl here." How much time passed like this? How many hours? I didn't know. The police keep talking, saying, "Mister, surrender weapon. You are a good man. You're not a man to harm a little girl. We know you. You are not a man to harm anyone." Finally, Daddy, exhausted, stood up and said, "Yes, yes, that's right." Daddy kissed me on the side of my cheek and said, "Goodbye, princess." Then, Daddy put the barrel of the gun deep inside his mouth, and Daddy pulled the trigger. And so it ended. It always ends. But don't tell me there isn't happiness. It exists. It won't last, but it is there.